Should we be concerned about Janthir Wilds? Now, as I've been dipping my toes into Secrets of the Obscure and completing the main story and experiencing everything in and around there, I kind of found myself not necessarily being too excited about the game. Now, to be sure, I've recently been playing through the Final Fantasy XIV experience, and that game has absolutely blew my socks off with how awesome the story is. And I don't know necessarily if that's a fair comparison, but it kind of showed me that the story for Secrets of the Obscure was a bit underwhelming, in my opinion. And it has led me to be a little bit concerned with how Janthir Wilds will play. Now, to be sure, Janthir Wilds is looking like it's going to have a lot of really cool things. So spears, homesteading, it seems like the War Claw is going to be a very big part. There's new bosses and enemies and new explorable areas. That's great. I'm just concerned that it may be like the Secrets of the Obscure. Now, let's go ahead and take a look just briefly at Secrets of the Obscure before we totally throw Janthir Wilds under the bus. First, what I would say positive about Secrets of the Obscure is that it was an attempt in a different direction. Now, if you follow along for Guild Wars 2's historic journey, we'll say it's historic. Each one of the major expansions, Heart of Thorns, Path of Fire, End of Dragons, has had a bunch of new elite specializations. They've had, new different weapon combinations for all the classes, as well as a major story arc. I mean, there were quite a bit of things that were very exciting about that. Even the DLC, the Living World series, that were occurring in between each one of the expansions. Those were great. That was a lot of fun. But once we got to Secrets of the Obscure, and I'm sure that I'm not the only one who thought it, is that it really didn't excite me the same way. And I think that's partially why I kind of took a break. The story didn't really hook me as well as I had wanted to. The weapon master training, where each one of the elite specialization weapons were then made available to every combination of class. I mean, that was cool. That was fun. The Wizard's Vault was a really unique idea to the daily login, and you can choose what you were after. That's pretty cool. I liked some of the aspects for it, but then others, it just kind of felt like it was, and I hate to say it, it kind of like a half-baked expansion. It felt like it was just a Living World series, like a saga, so to speak. So like Icebrood Saga. And that has me a little bit concerned with Janthir Wilds. Now, again, I say that this was ArenaNet stepping into a new direction, something, novel into this universe that they have so precariously built. I get it, I do. I would just say that Janthir Wilds has an opportunity to essentially make amends for what Secrets of the Obscure did. I don't know necessarily if everyone was as excited about the expansion, about rifting, convergences, anything like that. It was kind of like more of the same, I suppose. I mean, even like down to some of the character models, and then even some of the story elements, like Timey coming back, and all these other aspects that were meant to draw us in. They kind of were like short-lived flames. Like, it was cool for a minute, but it really didn't hold my attention. Now we look at Janthir Wilds. So Janthir Wilds is looking to return to essentially what we understand of core Tyria, well, I should say just Tyria in general, which is cool. I'm hopeful that this is going to be done very, very well. I mean, as I mentioned, the spears, the homesteading, all these different aspects, I'm very excited. The Spear Elementalist, I think, is going to be one of the coolest things ever. It does bring me just up to question, and what I will say about the expansion and what it could potentially be is that Secrets of the Obscure has kind of left a bit of a bad taste in many players' mouths. I've heard from a number of different either comments that I've seen Reddit threads, I've seen Twitter threads, of people just saying, And unfortunately, Guild Wars 2, it does not need another kind of expansion. And what I think should also be said is that this is just a very early look. We have very little information other than the initial launch trailer and then a couple of posts. That's about it. We've, over the past couple of weeks, have seen some of the spear skills that the different classes are going to be able to use, which is awesome. And the animations look great. It looks really unique. I mean, there's a lot to be excited about in that regard. However, I'm concerned that it will be just like the Weapon Master training when we went ahead and got into Secrets of the Obscure. Now, Janthir Wilds also is looking to kind of double down on some of the original content from Guild Wars 2. So it doesn't take like the Wizard's Tower and essentially catapult you to the Horn of Maguma and you're fighting all of these interdimensional threats that are coming out. It focuses more on what makes the game great. So we have the low-lying Coden, which are essentially grizzly bears and not polar bears. And then you have like remnants of the White Mantle, and Titan was mentioned. And there's these different elements that are drawing us back into the excitement of the original game, which is great. It is a fantastic step forward. But it really boils down to, will that be enough? Personally, I think it will. I think that there are so many players who enjoy Guild Wars 2 and have enjoyed the game for so long that after Secrets of the Obscure, they want something a little bit better. They want something a little bit new. I, for one, am a part of that same thought process. I love Guild Wars 2. I did, but it got down to some type of monotony style of work, especially doing stuff for the Wizard's Vault and Secrets of the Obscure and I mean, like rifting and all that stuff. It really just felt incredibly repetitive. Again, granted that this is an MMO. I know that there is going to be some type of repetitive action, a grind, so to speak. It just felt worse for this expansion, and I don't think that that's necessarily worthy enough of besmirching the great reputation that Guild Wars 2 and ArenaNet have had over the past 12 years that they've been around. I mean, hell, I'd make the comparison to World of Warcraft. How many shitty expansions did they have, and players still play it? I mean, it does, you have to offer some grace, especially when they're trying something new, and I guess that's why I'm not going to be super duper harsh. I am just going to be cautiously excited, cautiously optimistic about Guild Wars 2 Janthir Wilds, just because of the aspects that's coming in, just because I understand where the elements of this expansion is going to be. There's a lot of things to be excited about. Now I ask you, are you excited about Janthir Wilds? Is this game going to be something that you think is going to completely break Guild Wars 2 out into the internet and essentially rise it higher than it is? Or do you think that it's going to be more of the same? Is it going to be something that we have already seen? Comment down below. I'm curious to what you think. As I mentioned, I went ahead and left Guild Wars 2 for about 6 months. I stopped playing the game completely. And I think I shared some commonality and some reasoning of why this happened. And you can check that video out here. Otherwise, stay caffeinated, folks.